What's up everybody? Welcome back to Go-kart build video number 5, and this is going to be part 2 of the continuing video from video number 4. And in video number 4 I started welding on the actual frame of the go-kart. And if you guys haven't checked that video out, definitely do so you can get caught up. But in this video I'm going to be working more on welding the frame of the go-kart. And in particular, if we look at the schematic right here, it's going to be this big middle section. That's going to be the biggest section of the go-kart to work on, and I'm going to try and get that done in this video. So what I've done already before I started the video was I prepped all the pieces, meaning I brushed them up with the metal brush, and I also filed down all of the edges so we have a nice clean welding surface. And now we're ready to go and set it all up on the welding table, and then we'll get welding. Alright guys, so now we got the layout set up here for the first corner of the frame section that we're going to be doing. And in the last video, if you guys watched the last video, you heard me talk about the frame kind of warping just a tad while we're welding it together. So I'm going to try something for this section that I didn't do last time, which is I'm going to weld one tack on this side, and then it's going to be tedious, but then I'm going to flip it over, tack the other side, and then flip it back over, tack this side, flip it back over, tack the other side. So I'm going to see how that goes, and then we'll go from there to see how well it does with not warping. Alright, so just so I don't bore you guys to death, in between each part, when I finish one tack, I'm going to cut the video and then just kind of start it again once I get it all set up, just because it's going to take a little while to get it all set up. So here we go with the first tack. Alright, not bad. So now I just have to be really careful about moving this so I don't bend it or break that weld. Alright, so as you can see, I flipped it around. Now we have the long edge on this side and the short edge on this side. And like I said, I just had to be careful with moving it around because it did want to bend a little bit. So, but this I think will help with avoiding any warping of any kind. So I'm going to go ahead and tack this on the underside and then flip it back over. So it's tedious, and it takes time, but it's worth it to be precise. Alright, that's a pretty good one. So I'm going to go ahead and flip it back over, and I will see you guys when I do that. Alright, so now we've got it flipped back over with the long side here now, and I'm going to go ahead and finish up that last tack on this side. Looking good. Alright, so now I'm going to flip it back over again. Alright guys, so I just finished that one corner here, and it was pretty tedious flipping it back over and over again, but it's worth it when it comes down to it, staying square and staying straight. But just so I don't bore you guys, I'm going to go ahead and finish the outer rectangular perimeter of it, and then I'll fill you guys back in once I finish that, and then I'll take you guys along with me once I start doing the inner sections, because that's when I start welding the 45 pieces and all the inner support pieces, and that'll be a little bit more interesting than just me doing the outer rectangle. So I'll see you guys when I'm done with the rectangle. Alright, so I just finished welding up the square rectangular section of this part of the frame, and in this section I actually ran into my first little hiccup during the welding experience, and hopefully the last hiccup. But basically what I did was, when I was welding the first joint, there's this top piece and then there's the bottom piece, and I welded them like this, basically one going on the side of the other, and I needed to weld them like this, where one is underneath the other one. And that is because I had two 18-inch pieces that go in between the section here, and if I welded it like this is also an 18-inch piece, so that wouldn't have fit. But luckily I was able to use the angle grinder and grind down the welds and then redo it in the correct manner. So that kind of just got me thinking to make sure I always double check the schematic before I proceed with the welding. And right now I'm just kind of measuring out and laying out the middle pieces of this section before I go ahead and tack them in. I really want to make sure I get it right after, you know, just making a mistake back there. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys kind of the setup right now, and then we're going to go ahead and get into some more welding. Alright, so as you guys can see here, I have the whole section laid out on the welding table right now. And one thing that I really found out that helped me out was using these Irwin C-clamps and kind of just clamping the thing down to the table. That doesn't only help with, you know, prevent warping, but it also helps it prevent from moving, just in case if I bump it or anything. But basically, what I have laid out right now are the two, ouch, just stabbed myself with the wire brush. I have the two pieces going in the middle here. They're 18-inch, so they're the same size as this. And then I have two 8-inch pieces in the middle. And the reason why I'm keeping these in the middle is to make sure that these two 18-inch pieces maintain their gap in between. So that way we don't get too small, and then I can't fit these pieces in the middle. And so I measured this out. So this is about from here to the other edge of the frame. That's about 10 inches. And then we double check here. It's also just right around 10 inches. This, I think, needs to be moved to the left just a tad. But other than that, everything's going pretty smoothly. And I'm just going to go ahead and, you know, tack one here and tack one here. And then we're going to go from there. Alright, so now that we've got everything set in place with all the magnets, go ahead and flip on the welder. And then we're just going to pick our point up here, and we're going to go ahead and start tacking this piece down. Alright, I'll go ahead and do the other end at the opposite side. Alrighty, and we'll go ahead and switch it around again. Good one. And we'll go ahead and finish up this last side. Alright, looking good. Looking good. Alright, so now that we finished this piece over here, I'm going to go ahead and switch the magnets on over to this side so we can go ahead and weld in this piece. And then after this, we'll weld in the two 8-inch pieces in the middle, and then flip it over to weld the other side. Just make sure it maintains a good separation in the middle here. It doesn't get all wacky in terms of the gap, and I'm going to go ahead and measure it with the ruler one more time as well. Alright, let's check it with the ruler. It's pretty dang close. Really what matters the most is if these pieces in here, if they're equidistant, because I'm pretty sure that this side is still 10 inches. Yeah, see, this side's good, so if those are fitting in the middle, gosh, this mask keeps falling down. Yeah, I mean, it's off by maybe a 1/16 of an inch, but what matters the most is if these are still in place. Alright, so we got that set in place now, and we're going to go ahead and stick with the same pattern of doing the kind of the offset, opposite end welding pattern. So here we go. Ready? Looking good. Ow, definitely got a spark in my shoe. Ooh, that hurt, that hurt. Okay, so these welds are looking pretty good. And keep in mind, when I say pretty good, I'm not meaning like of any professional level. I'm talking about in terms of my skill level, and also in terms of what my welds need to accomplish. And this is just tacking the frame together, so that's definitely accomplishing that. Alright, so I went ahead and measured that one more time just to be safe. Go ahead and measure it again just to be extra safe. I don't like having to break off welds. Those masks will stay in place. It's right at 6 inches, we're good to go. So we're going to go ahead and weld this part of the middle section. Ooh, that's hot. Went ahead and touched up that one just because it was a little bit, looks like it didn't cross all the way. So that piece is done, and my camera battery is about to die, so I'm going to go ahead and charge that, and then I'll get right back to you guys. Alright everyone, so after taking a little short break and waiting for the camera battery to charge back up, I went ahead and laid out everything again and got everything all measured up and squared away here with this last piece. So I'm going to go ahead and weld this last piece, and then we're going to go ahead and flip the entire thing and then weld the other side of all the pieces that we welded on this side. So let's get right to it. Alright, looking good. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and flip this entire thing, and then I'll get right back to you guys. So before I flip this thing back over and put it back on the welding table, I just kind of wanted to show you guys real quick. So this is the mid-section of the go-kart frame, and basically, it's still smoking a little bit, basically the seat is going to go right here, and after I finish welding this side, the only thing left we have to do for this section is to put the diagonal pieces on, and that'll be after I finish this last section. So since there's really nothing to adjust in terms of magnet-wise in between welding, I'm just going to go ahead and knock this all out in one go, and then we'll be done with this part, and then all we got to do is add on the diagonal pieces now. Alright, so those are done. Now we're going to do the two pieces in the cross section here. That was the greatest one. redo this first one here. Okay. Alright, I think that'll do. That was a pretty ugly one, but it's alright. Alright, so that is it for the this part of the frame. So then now I'm just going to go ahead and grab the cross section or the diagonal cut pieces, and I'm going to go ahead and lay those out. I think I'm going to flip the frame back over, and then that way we'll be able to measure them out and get everything squared away. Alright, so as you guys can see, this is the first 45-degree cut piece. Now what I meant by lining it up was, see this piece right here, these kind of in the schematic, if you guys can see that, those 45 pieces kind of line up with each cross-section piece. So, you know, this piece right here is going to line up with this one. So then the smaller one that goes down here is most likely going to line up with that one. So it works out pretty well like that. Now it's just a test to see how well I can fill this weld, because like I said, these cuts aren't exactly perfect. I mean, they're pretty dang close, but they're not like precision, you know, engineered cuts where you're just using a general miter saw. So I'm going to go ahead and flip on the welder and tack this up and kind of follow the same cross hatch pattern to the tacks. So hopefully this goes well, otherwise we'll be trying to grind down these welds. Alright, not bad. It is kind of bothering me a little bit. I'm a little bit worried when we flip this over, the gap's going to be really large. But I think we'll be okay. So, I don't know. True test will be when we flip this thing over and see how we did. But for now, I think I'm going to line up this other piece here and then weld that as well. Alright, so we got the smaller one all set up here. And it's fitting a little bit better than the last one, so hopefully it'll go a little bit better than that one. Alright, so I think that went pretty well. Now, before I do the other side, I'm going to go ahead and actually flip this over and weld this just to see how it turned out. So, once I flip it over, I'll show you guys what it looks like. Alright, so I just flipped this thing over, and interesting enough, the piece that I was worried about looks like it fits better on the bottom here, and then the piece that looked better from the other side doesn't fit as snugly as I would like it to, but it looked like it looked better from the other side. And just the way the welds have been kind of going, these pieces haven't been sitting perfectly you know, lined up with one another. So if like, I'm trying to visualize it here for you guys. So like, yeah, so like if they'd be perfectly sitting like this, they're kind of like just a tad like that, just because I think once I you know, put the tack welds on the bottom, it actually raises the entire frame off the table a little bit. So then once I put the other pieces on in between that aren't tacked on the bottom, they kind of sit lower. So I think that's why we're kind of getting a small gap here on the bottom. And I think it'll be okay. I think we'll be able to weld around it for the most part, especially the professional welder. But I'm gonna just try and do my best to, you know, keep these tacks nice and clean and make it easier for him. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw on the magnets just for precaution, and then we'll go to weld this up. Alright, so I got this other 45-degree piece set up on the other side here, and one thing that I kind of thought of that I should try maybe is utilizing these magnets in a different way, because since these pieces aren't like perfectly 45 degrees, if I put the welding magnets in here to kind of maintain that 45, it actually makes a bigger gap, and it makes it a little bit harder to weld. So I'm actually going to try and just use them to hold the piece up. So if you remember, I was saying the pieces were kind of down a little bit, so they weren't perfectly level. So I'm going to try and use the magnets now to keep them level with the other part of the frame for now, because based on the other side over here, it didn't work. In some parts it worked well because the parts sit really flush, but in other parts there was a big gap, and it made it really hard to tackle that with that gap there. So I'm going to go ahead and just try it with using the magnets to kind of hold it up right now. Alright, that one wasn't bad. That wasn't too bad either. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and move the magnet on this one so I can weld this other part. Not as great of a connection as I wanted. Alright, that one was better. That makes me feel a little better. Alright, now I'll go ahead and do this one up here. Alright, that looks good. Now I think one of the problems that one of the things I wasn't realizing was that at the corners of the 45, the metal is a lot thinner, and it's a lot easier to burn through it. So I have to kind of keep that in mind when I'm welding these, you know, angular, or not angular, but, you know, angled cut pieces, and not just the straight cut ones. Alright, so I got the other angle cut piece set up with the magnets holding it in place as well. And now I'm just going to go ahead and give it a try and see how we do here on this weld. Alright, that one was pretty good. I like that one. That was good. Okay. Alright, so they're not looking too bad. Not looking too bad on this side. I definitely think that using these magnets to hold the metal in place helps a lot. Not just in terms of the angles, but maintaining the angles, but also like keeping it, you know, in the same plane as the frame itself. So I'm gonna go ahead and flip it over now. Alright guys, so that's gonna kind of wrap up this video. It was a productive day. I pumped out 2 videos today for you guys. This is part 2 of the first part of the welding of the frame videos. And so in the first video I did the front section, and in this video I did the main section, which was definitely, you know, pretty complicated. Everything was going pretty good, and then I kind of hit some, you know, rough spots with the with those 45 angle cut pieces, because, you know, they weren't lining up properly, so it made for some messy tack welds. But I went back and kind of touched up a few of them, and I think they're really good, and I think they're good enough to set up the welder for, you know, some good welds. Basically, this is just to get everything put in place, so I can just, you know, give it to them and say, you know, hey, this is what, you know, basically just weld here, weld here, weld here. Wherever I welded, you know, you just cover that and make it stronger. So I had some, you know, issues with, you know, the gaps, like I said, and then I tried to fill them and then ended up burning through some of the metal, but then I was able to kind of patch it up a little bit. But in the end, this is the middle section of the go-kart frame, and I'm really stoked that it's now coming together as one piece. And my plan is for the future videos is to get this piece connected to the front section piece that I did in the earlier video, and then from there we'll continue working on the suspension arms, you know, like drilling out all the holes for those, and also the shock tab mounts. But main priority is to get the frame tacked together so we can send that off to the welding shop. So that's going to conclude for this video. I'm really tired. I stayed up a lot later than I thought I was going to continue working on this go-kart, you know, the welding and stuff. But thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you guys enjoyed it. You know, you learned something and it was somewhat entertaining. And I will see you guys in the next video.